Welcome to the Free Cities podcast. My name is Timothy Allen, and this is the official podcast of the Free Cities Foundation. Hello, and welcome to episode number 64 of the Free Cities podcast. Well, on today's show, I'm talking with one of what I would consider to be the key individuals in the Free Cities movement. He's the incredibly successful entrepreneur who is both the brains and the finance behind Ciudad Morazán, which is Honduras's so-called blue-collar free city. Massimo Mazzone is a lifelong libertarian who saw an opportunity to create a unique passion project when the Honduran government passed its ZEDE legislation back in 2013. The ongoing result is Morazán, one of the world's flagship free cities projects, but one that you probably know the least about, since Massimo is not in the business of either self-promotion or promoting Morazán to potential investors or the like. Massimo's dreams for Ciudad Morazán are big, as you will hear in the conversation, and I hope you'll also pick up on the genuine enthusiasm that he has for both Honduras and its people. I came away from this discussion very optimistic, even after hearing about the current legal battles facing Morazán, which are somewhat stifling the project in the short term. Anyway, listen on, and many thanks to Massimo for coming on the show. Well, since we're on the subject of ZEDEs, longer-term followers of the Free Cities Foundation will no doubt be aware of the concept of special economic zones. These are, of course, parts of countries where different taxes and regulations apply to businesses. Now, since the first modern special economic zone was established in 1959, believe it or not, there are now more than 5,000 that have sprung up around the world. In many ways, free cities are the next stage in the evolution of special economic zones. They are places that are still part of the host country, but with more autonomy than traditional special economic zones, including housing full-time residents, which is a big deal. I'm currently part of a team aiming to make a short film telling the story of special economic zones and why there is a pretty compelling argument for governments to move beyond the traditional model to establishing free cities. The film we hope to produce will be shared with sympathetic government officials, allowing us to showcase the positive impact of special economic zones and make the case that free cities could yield even greater results. If that's something you're interested in and you want to support us in our efforts to establish new free cities, supporting this film might be a great way for you to do so. And you can make a donation either in your fiat currency of choice via our GoFundMe campaign, link in show notes, of course, or via the wonderful medium of Bitcoin by visiting free-cities.org/donate. And donors who support with more than $50 will have the option of having their name featured in the film's end credits, if that's something you're interested in. Anyway, check the show notes for all the links, and of course, if it's not of interest to you, do you know what? I'm just happy you're here and interested in what we're doing. We all believe in a better world for individuals, and I love having the opportunity to speak with all these incredible people working on their own versions of that vision. So, without further ado, once again, it's time to please sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Massimo Mazzone. To begin with, though, is find a little bit about your personal background, business background. Maybe if you could tell me in your own words.
Yeah, I'm Italian. I've been living in Italy until the end of university, and I was in the military service because it was the Cold War. Then I started to work in the Boston Consulting Group, which is a consulting company, and I was sent to Chicago, and there they always staffed me in a project in Mexico because they said Italian, Spanish, same shit, literally. So I had to go, I had to go there and learn Spanish. And when they opened the office in Monterrey, I was one of the guys that went there. And I spent 4 years in Mexico. Then there was the dot-com bubble. I lost my job, and Motorola, which was a client I had in Chicago, sent me to run the cellular phone company in Honduras. But that company was bought 6 months later, and they fired me again. So I decided to be an entrepreneur. I met the girl that was going to be my wife. I didn't want to change place. I started with a pharmacy chain, and now I am the owner of a conglomerate, let's say. 80% is still in the pharmacy business. Overall, the company sells $1 billion, and we employ 7,000 people in the regions, 3,000 in Honduras, and the rest in the other countries in Central America. I've been a libertarian all my life, since I was in Chicago when I was exposed to the idea of Ron Paul. So when the ZEDE project in Honduras was proposed, I was very interested. Unfortunately, the first version didn't work out, was blocked by the Supreme Court. Then they did some changes in the Constitution and some changes in the law too. So at that point, I became very interested. The law was still fairly high level and needed a lot of regulation to be implemented. This job was done mostly by Titus with Prospera. So in a sense, I piggybacked the work of Titus, and when all the regulation and the way of working was clear, I applied to open a ZEDE in Honduras with two objectives. The first is to help Honduran, I mean, making money, of course. I'm a libertarian, so I believe that, yeah, charity has its role in society, but charity at the end is sterile, because when the person that puts the money dies, so he is not interested anymore, the venture withers and dies. Well, if you find a way of making money, not only you will grow, but people will copy you, and this is the way society grows. So the first idea was to help, in a way, Honduran, and the other is to show the world that what is now called public services, that from an economical point of view are not public service, like education, healthcare, and so, are provided by a private individual or company. The results are exceptionally better than when they're provided by the state, both in terms of cost and quality. And this, I think, is something that has an objective that transcends Honduras, but it's hopefully a lesson that can be learned across the world.
It's interesting, of course, because your project compared to Prospera, whilst they're both ZEDEs, has a very different attitude, I think. I think the way that a lot of people in the Free Cities movement have classified it is white collar and blue collar. As in, you've got a blue collar ZEDE, and we've got a white collar ZEDE, which is interesting, really, because you are an entrepreneur, nevertheless. And entrepreneurs, I can imagine, would think the same way that the entrepreneurs at Prospera are thinking, and bringing in investment, bringing in business contacts, bringing in money into Honduras. So I can see that you have a particular ideological idea behind your ZEDE. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Prospera too. The three ZEDE in Honduras, the two of us, Prospera and me, we are clearly libertarians. The third one, it's more a business. I mean, it's doesn't have residential people inside, so it's basically a traditional special economic zone. In that case, I don't think there is any ideological reason to do that.
But I mean, in your case, for example, compared to Prospera, from what I've seen anyway, I obviously haven't been to visit Morazán yet. I hope so one day. Prospera is offering the opportunity for people to come and build. Yeah. And your idea is, okay, now here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to do it. And also, for example, you are renting places and Prospera is offering to buy. And can you just go a little bit into the reasons behind that?
Yeah, there are two big differences with Prospera. One is the business model. We are what we call an entrepreneurial community, based on the idea of Spencer Heath and Spencer McCallum, that the landlord can take a lot of role that are tradition in the last 150 years covered by the state. So people basically rent a place and receive a suite of service, which includes law and order. Not the criminal side, because the judges for criminal cases are still in the jurisdiction of Honduras, but in civil and the implementation also, the police depends on us. So the ZEDE is a municipality, and the first big difference with Prospera is that they are a subdivision. They sell the land. In our case, we only rent, and we can go later on the reason we choose this business model. The second is clearly the objectives. Prospera, it's a great initiative looking to attract people from Honduras, but also from outside Honduras, and really becoming leading edge on innovation, for example, in financial matters or in biotechnology and new therapies. We have nothing like that. I mean, in the world there are probably a couple of billion people that in the next 20 years will move from the countryside to the city. Poor people that lives a life of extreme destitution, and they go in sweatshop usually, places where they don't make a lot of money. In Honduras, my clients are blue-collar worker, or what is called maquilas. Maquilas is the industry of special economic zone, that it's light manufacturing, extremely labor-intensive, and basically it's textile and something like automotive harnessing. And they make between $300 and $400 per month. So they come to Choloma, because where we are based, Choloma is the third city in Honduras. It's a city that when I arrived in Honduras had only 30,000 people. Now it has 300,000 people in 25 years. They find the job. It's a very vibrant city with a lot of job, but the environment is completely degraded, because I guess even in Sweden, an increase from 30 to 300 would present problems in terms of roads and sewage. And in Honduras, this is compounded by the violence. So Choloma is pretty much an hell site. People don't go out after 7 o'clock because it's dangerous. All the small business pay the gangs extortion money. Most of the roads are not paved. Sewage are open air. It's really a pretty bad place. And what we want to give to the Honduranian and to show the world that even for people that do not have a lot of disposable income, we can provide a life with dignity, with houses that are good houses. They are not luxurious houses. They are not mansions, of course. Complete security, which is extremely important there. Services like water and electricity 24/7, good road without potholes, good school. We do not have a school yet because we do not have enough clients, but we're going to open a school, bilingual school, a school in English. And we can do that with very little money because we charge only 5% of taxes on income. We don't have any other type of taxes, so we don't have taxes on value added, sales taxes, inheritance taxes, or property taxes, only 5% on income, which seems strange because if you look at Western states, they usually spend between 35 and 40%. So it's possible to spend 5%. Well, in the US under Grover Cleveland, so we're talking about 120 years ago, at the beginning of the 20th century, the federal taxation was not income, was based on excise or import duty, but it was only 3.5% of the GDP. Granted, schools was not included because it was a state matter, but it was 3.5, it worked. And actually, we already showed that we can work with 5% because until April 22, when the law that is trying to eliminate us was approved in Congress. At that point, we had tax revenues of $70,000 per month, and the cost of the ZEDE. It's important here to understand the two entities that compose the ZEDE. The first is a political non-profit entity that charge the taxes, the 5% on income, and provide a public service. And the second is the private entity that invest in the buildings and the land and get a rent, get a lease. So the first one, the political entity, which is a non-profit, was actually making $70,000 of taxes per month and spending about $40,000 in public services. So we had a surplus. We had a surplus for a few months. Then in 22, in April, when the law was approved, all the companies left. And at that point, we didn't have a tax base. But for a few months, we had a surplus. And if this was going to continue, at the end of the year, we would have given back the surplus to the taxpayer. With those numbers, basically, the real taxation would have been 3%. Again, there was not a school. Probably with the school, we would have used most of the 5%. But I'm pretty sure the ZEDE would be at least in break-even, even with the school and the healthcare. On the other end, the private entity at that point had invested probably about $12 million to buy the land, a couple of $1 million to do the perimeter wall, bring the energy with a line of 4 kilometers, dig some well for the water, main road, water recycling plant, and in terms of monetizable buildings, 64 houses, townhouses, 2 bedrooms, and 4,000 square meters of industrial space. And he was making $15,000 of rents with only $3,000 or $4,000 of expenses. So we were making money. Now, of course, those $10,000 we were making per month did not justify the opportunity cost of the $12 million of investments. But consider that maybe 80% of the investments were non-monetizable things, like the wall, the streets, the sewage. The project is $150 million, and of that, 120 is monetizable. So given that I lend the money to the company was, from an accounting point of view, was making money, was making $100,000 per year. So both the political entity and the private entity they were making money. So I think the model was proved in two senses, that the Entrecom model works, and which is a thing that I already know because it's my business. Even people considered poor, people making $400 per month are probably considered poor in Western places. They are still good clients. If you provide the right product for them, they are satisfied, they pay, and they are clients. Everybody is a client. Everybody has needs. So if you can find a business model that provides what they're looking for the cost that they can afford, you can make money.
And how do just out of interest, the rents in Morazán, how do they compare to similar buildings in say, Choloma?
More or less the same. We have these bedrooms, 60 square meters, and it's $120 per month. It's all included, the fixed cost like security and gardening, these things. What is not included is water, electricity, and internet connection, if they want the internet connection. And it's in local money, it's 3,000 lempira, which is more or less the same price that it's outside. I could actually increase the price probably at 25% more and still be completely booked out, because the quality of life is much better in our ZEDE. But I am not doing that because the idea is to have a lot of people that wants to come, right? So in this moment, we actually have a waiting list of 200 families that came to visit friends in the community and came to our offices saying, next time somebody leave, please call me. And unfortunately, the project now is blocked because with the rhetoric of the government, there is no way I'm going. This is a third difference with Prospera. Prospera, it's a startup. They raise money continuously, so they have a legal mandate to do what they say the shareholders they were going to do with their money, which is to keep building, right? In my case, it's me that is putting the money, so I can decide when slow down or increase the pace. After the election of this government, of course, I stopped building anything. But I recently decided to invest from now to the end of June probably $2 or $3 million because there is a lot of enthusiasm in the community. People telling me I want my sister or uncle to come to live. So we're going to build another 24 townhouses like the one we have now, and apartment building with probably 50 or 60 studios that we are going to rent for $80. This for single people that work in the area. And nicely, very likely, a church. We'll build a church that will rent to the local bishopry for $1 per year. A nominal amount, but keeping the ownership. And this is interesting because at the beginning, the church, as most of even the civil society entity in Honduras, was completely against us. And now, I met the bishop, I talked to him, and they are eager to send a priest. And the church will actually serve not only Morazán, but all the area around Morazán, which is very, very dangerous. So they also like the fact that it's completely safe in our environment.
With regards to the legal battle, and this is things I've gathered from speaking to people at Prospera and about that whole situation, and they often say that the current government are using places like Prospera as a bit of a distraction from and a boogeyman, let's say, for their political gain. What I'm wondering is, in your case, because you're more, I suppose you're more Honduras facing, I suppose, in the way you work. first of all, is that a good characterization of what the government's doing? And secondly, if it is that, are you in a better position there?
No. The ZEDE law was the biggest theme in the electoral process 2 years ago. So the party currently in power, which is Libre, it's a party very close to Venezuela. It's a rancid left, I would call it. And they use this as with a lot of lies, saying that we were expropriating people and we were going to secede, or actually they said we had the criminal judges. That is not true. The criminal judges are the judges of Honduras. And they even, when they won, they even create a new post that it's a ministerial post that is called Commissionato contro la ZEDE, which means minister against the ZEDE. I mean, not minister for the affair of the ZEDE, but minister against the ZEDE. So this is pretty clear that they don't want us. And Choloma, it's actually the center of the Party Libre because it's the most working class city in Honduras, so where there are the unions, so they hate us less than before, the people in the street, because they realize we are not corrupt, we are not narco-trafficant. In a couple of cases, they accuse us that we were pedophiles, that we wanted our place to take advantage of kids, I guess. And now people are coming. I mean, people are living there, friends are coming. They see now it's basically simply a residential community, a gated residential community, because the industry left, right? But they see that, I mean, you can see a lot of picture in our site, which is www.morazan, morazan.city. And it's a nice place. It would be a nice place even in Western Europe. So the base, the people, they changed their idea. But the party has invested too much against the ZEDE. Really, they poisoned the well with the election. So I don't see any way we will reach an agreement with the current government.
When you said the industry's left, is that on account of the instability now, the political instability?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are very successful in the residential side because our clients are relatively poor. They don't have a lot of belongings. So if the government come and expropriate us or do something like that, I mean, in 2 hours in a pickup, they can move somewhere else. But an industry has to move machinery to change the electrical setup of the building. There are always investments. And also, they are continuously threatened by the government, saying that they are in illegal places, that one of these days the people of taxes will show up because it's a free trade zone, so they pay only 5% to us. But they say, no, they have to pay 35%. They actually never came, but they keep saying that. And people, important people, the president, especially the president of Congress, at least once a week insult us. So it's normal. If you're a business, you don't want to take a fight with the government, and definitely you don't want to invest in setting up a place and you can be kicked out. One of the companies there was actually one of my companies, and I took it away because it was a company distributing among our pharmacies. We have 700 pharmacies in the region. That was the logistics center. And there were containers of medicine coming in and out every day. And a few politicians said that they're going to tell the police to stop the container just outside the gate and leave them 2 weeks under the sun. Now, if you have a container of medicines under the sun for 2 weeks, you lose $1 million. So, I mean, the risk was too big. So I had to. One of the company was my company, and I had to move even my company outside.
I'm getting the impression, though, that charges levied against you, let's say, the reasons why the political side are, vilifying the ZEDEs, none of them appear to be true, we know that, right? So what's the general feeling amongst people, though? Because presumably one by one, these myths are being expounded and being withdrawn, are they? And if you've got families living in there and you've got local families noticing, okay, good standard of living, security, isn't word getting out that this isn't the terrible...
Yeah, it is. And some people that are, for example, one of our best evangelists, the person that brings more friends inside the community, used to be against the ZEDE, he said. And then he came to live, and now it's our best advertiser. It's a guy called Roger Sarmiento. It's a bus driver, but it's a great guy. But I think we have to go back to public choice, rational irrationality of Brian Kaplan. I mean, the Libre people in the country at large, they are not only not exposed, but they don't care about us, really, because they don't think one day they will come to live with us. So they spend so much of their personal capital insulting us that for them it's very difficult to signal a different position. So there is, what Kaplan said in his book, a rational irrationality. If they, in Twitter or in Facebook, they keep saying in the ZEDE they expropriated, even if I'm pretty sure they know that nobody ever expropriated nothing, the signal to their ideological tribe, it's what they get, right? And so they keep telling us that we are criminals. And it could change if we could have a big impact. I mean, before the election, we already had two big contracts aligned. One with a pharmaceutical company, not one of my company, another company that wanted to put a production facility there with 10,000 square meters and would provide more than 500 jobs, good paying jobs, because pharmaceuticals is more than minimum wage. And then a call center of 350 people. And that would be 850 jobs. I guess most of them would have chosen to live in the community, to live next to their job. And at that point, only those two things would be enough to create an economy. Even now that we have only 150 residents, already we have a cafe, a small mom and pop shop that works as a convenience store. We have a gym. We have a girl that cut the hair, an hairdresser, and a laundromat, I think. But with 800, probably 1,000 family living there, this would be much bigger. Probably it's enough for a supermarket to go there, and then maybe a car shop, maybe a lawyer, and then the economy starts to do the magic of the spontaneous order.
But obviously now, I mean, the point of the ZEDE was it's an economic zone as well. So, I mean, can it? Well, as you said earlier, it can actually run without the business. Right. You can run it with just residents. Right?
No, it doesn't work because in the business plan, we were always going to subsidize a little bit the residential side with the industrial side. I give you the economics. Our houses costed, that was 3 years ago, costed $18,000 each. And we are charging $120. If you take a little maintenance and 1 month of not occupancy every year, it's probably $1,200. So the return on investment, it's like 5 or 6%, which in Honduras it's lower than the cost of capital. But industrial side, we were renting at $5 per month, something that cost, without the land, the urbanization, just the building, $250 per square meter. So in that case, the payback without leverage was going to be 4 months. And the reason is that because the cost of similar industrial building in Choloma, it's between $3.50 and $4. But the objective was to rent these things to all the big international companies that do business in Honduras. They're mostly American. They have this funny ESG complaints, so they like to tell their shareholders and clients that they take care of their workers. So the bet was that a better environment for the workers would allow us to charge $1 more per square meter in this industrial side. Now, we lost the industrial side. We do not have taxes at all. And also, we do not have the part that is more profitable. So, for example, now the private entity, the owner of the building that is called the Community Artists, has to loan every month about $35,000 to the ZEDE, the political entity, to provide the public services. Because yes, you're right. I mean, the model I wasn't interested in doing just a special economic zone like a sweatshop. That's an industry that exists in Honduras. They make money. It's not my business. I was not interested in that. The idea was to build a complete city. So, and actually, the urban plan that we have now. So we have a little bit about numbers. We have 45 hectares, which is basically a quarter of Monaco, to give an example. And there were supposed to be dwellings for 15,000 people, 100,000 square meter of industrial space, about 50,000 square meter of offices, like for call center, and maybe 40,000 square meter of other like commercial places like supermarket and things like this, and for the civic building, because we need to have the custom office, the police office, the church. We're going to have a park, a stadium, a swimming pool. Overall, the investment was $150 million, which ends up being $10,000 per person living there. Now, if you take all the value of the real estate in the world and you divide it by the people in the world, it's about $35,000. So it's one-third. But you have to consider that, first of all, the costs are slightly lower than in the US or in Europe, because construction, building, it's labor-intensive, and the cost of labor is lower here. And then we do not have the rent in economics terms, but the rent cost of the land, because we buy land. We are not buying land in New York City. We are buying land at the outskirts of Choloma, and we are basically buying agricultural land. We are paying between $4 and $5 per square meter. And so this explains much of why we can provide, we can build a city with $10,000 compared to an average of 35.
And how much of that is actually built, and how much of that is on the plan?
We spent till now, spent directly and not just subsidizing, probably $12 million. It's about $2 million for the land, a little bit more than that. Then there is the perimeter wall, what I said before, a few roads, recycling plant, electrical line, water well, and then 64 houses and 4,000 square meter of industrial space. It's probably $12 million.
And if the government changes, say it goes to the other side, and what is it next? Is 2 years? 2 years.
2 years there will be the elections.
Then you would just start up again, back on with the process of building and attracting business.
No, absolutely. The plan is there. It's not my main asset, even if I invest the $150 million, but this is the project of my life. I was extremely excited by this. I convinced my wife to go to live there and to have the kids going to the school there. That was tough to convince my wife to go there.
Why? Well, she's not from even the area.
Well, yeah, but let's say that she accustomed to a level of life that's a little bit better than... because it's a nice place, it's safe and has dignity, but you don't find a Gucci shop in Morazán.
So you actually live on site, do you?
I used to go there often, and I was about to move with my family, but then these things happen, and so... At this moment, no. But we talk continuously with political people, and now the party in power actually squandered this support pretty fast. He arrived to power with a coalition with a junior party that already left. So they actually in Congress have less than 50%. They have about 30% of the votes. So they do not control the Congress. But they lost credibility also in the streets. I perceive, and polls say, polls are not very reliable in those places, but the numbers are so big that there must be some truth. And a lot of people that voted Libre change his mind. And if the election takes place, which is the first question, because probably they are trying to play the book of Chavez and avoid to have an election. So if the election take place and they lose, if they do the election, they will lose, I think. I think it's an educated guess that will in a reasonable time find an agreement with the other three parties, whoever wins. So there will be another law, there will be a change in the name because it's too toxic now. Probably some most extreme autonomy article in the law will be eliminated. But it's acceptable for us. I don't know how much acceptable is for
I think that was your
phone. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What do you think about that? So what's your personal view on the actual legal battle currently ensuing? How do you see it playing out in the life, or if at all? Obviously, if the government disappear in 2 years, what would happen then, actually? Would the new government be inclined to sort of continue, or can they just say, no, we don't want any part of this? No,
as I told you, if with the new government, we will find an agreement for them to avoid to be sued, like Prospera is doing, and I'm trying to avoid it, but if it keeps like this, I will have to sue. They will not send to the world the imaging of Honduras as a place where international business are expropriated, and they can actually do something good for the country, because I can assure you that the life in the ZEDE is much better than outside it. But the name is toxic, so we'll have to find a way of fixing something of the law. Some article we agree. For example, there is a stupid article that says that the state can expropriate in the name of for the ZEDE land. We are libertarian. If there is something we hate, it's eminent domain. And then it's stupid because the state can already do that. If they want to build a road, of course they can expropriate. There is nothing new. It's politically toxic. It's ideological repellent. So this is, for example, something that should go away immediately. But there are also some type of autonomy that I personally, in Morazán, don't need. For example, we can, given bank charters, new banks, and they are not under the control of Comisión Nacional de Banco y Seguro, the agency that controls the banks. This might be needed by Prospera, because Prospera wants to innovate at worldwide level, but we don't care. We just want to provide houses for relatively poor people. So all this type of, let's say, administrative autonomy something we care. For example, that the schools are not under the Ministry of Education. But something we couldn't care less and we could give up. But at this point, the point is what is needed by Prospera. So from a practical point of view, any agreement has to satisfy Prospera, and any agreement that Prospera reach is good enough for us. So the discussion, the technical discussion of how the law will be changed, I believe will be up to Prospera and the government, and we will be just go along to whatever is decided.
Have you got an opinion on why the current government, from where does this animosity towards ZEDEs come? Not in the political sense, just in the personal sense. Because in your case, it's very easy to argue that what you're doing is a good thing. And it's obvious. And you can go there and see it. And you can see people quite voluntarily moving somewhere, getting a better standard of living, getting what they want. So where does the opposition come from?
A lot of the opposition is historical because of the way of the election, and now this was a law of the other party, and they use it as a main issue of the election. But there is another reason. I was with the Ministry of Finance, and I told them about they don't know anything about this. They never visited us. So I told them, I said, looks good to me, and let's see the fiscal things, because you are taking out costs from us, like providing schooling and healthcare, but you are also taking out some revenues, like the taxes, because we tax 5%, and out of the 5% we pay 12% to the government, right?
12% of the 5%.
Of the 5%. Right, yeah. So, but the point is that most of our, the majority, 99%, they don't pay taxes because they make less than 20,000 lempira, and the income taxes is zero. So I show them it's better for you from a fiscal point of view. And he said, I have to think about that. In the next meeting, we were not talking about number anymore. He said, look, we cannot accept that private provide things that are so important like education. And the reason is, you cannot accept, because if people see that we can provide better service at a fraction of cost, they start to ask, why the fuck we need a politician? I mean, let's give the public services to private providers, and people will discover the reality that you're a useless parasite.
Well, yeah, making governments competitive for your business is it's a new idea, I suppose. Talking to you, the guys that designed your place, Patrick said, yeah. We spoke to them recently. He said that you ended up building better quality houses for less money as well. Is that correct? With regards to, well, I suppose a certain lack of red tape that goes into it. But another way that you proved that you can do it better than the outside world, let's say?
Yes. Two reasons, basically. One is the completely lack of red tape. We don't have zoning, we don't have anything like that. We also use a technology that is not used in Honduras with, it's a little bit complex, polyester prefab houses with cement on top of it. But this will explain maybe 10% cheaper than the normal price. So it's... But the big difference is not the cost of the dwellings, it's the way the environment is managed, the security, the lack of littering, the courtesy of people. I mean, when you go at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, when people goes out from the job, you see what I used to see in Italy when I was young. I mean, all the ladies take out the chairs and they start to chat until 9 o'clock in the evening. And this is the big difference from Choloma. I mean, people leaving the cellular phone on the table while they eat. And in Choloma, nobody would leave the cellular phone in a restaurant in the open.
What about so you've got a perimeter fence around it, or you?
Yeah.
If when people are, say, you had workers at working within the ZEDE.
Yeah.
How do they come and go? What's what is it like? Is it got?
There is guards. We need a perimeter, first of all, for security, because Choloma is dangerous. Now, our clients are not big targets, because what you can steal, a small television or things like that. But anyway, some security is good. But we need the wall for legal reason. We are a special economic zone, so there must be only one exit. That is, that there are people of the government from customs that check that we do not, or our tenants do not engage in contraband, right? In smuggling out a product that entered without paying the duty. Now they just, if they are residents, they're so little, 150, so few that guards know them. And if they are friends, they say, I'm going there, they call like a traditional residential community. Now, at the beginning, we were working with a great software company that was actually founded by a libertarian and was almost free. And we were devising a complex software system in which you pre-register at the beginning before going there. So even if you work or so, the door opened automatically, recognizing your face. Was pretty sophisticated, but at the end there was no need to keep developing that. But in case we start again, we'll definitely need to find a way of letting hundreds of people per hour to enter without creating bottlenecks.
I was going to say 15,000 residents. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
You need a number of entrances and exits with that, I would imagine. I mean, it's like like the old walled cities of Europe, right? Same kind of.
I think Monaco has 50,000 residents, so it's not much.
Monaco, you can just drive in and out of, though, can't you?
Yeah, because it's not. I think the value-added tax is the same. There is no smuggling. In our case, it would be more complex.
Because you're also not paying value-added tax on goods. Yeah. Does that mean goods are cheaper inside the ZEDE? Like it's something. If you had a supermarket, would goods be cheaper inside?
Well, if it's imported, could be cheaper.
I mean, the market would probably even it up.
No, because, we were very serious to avoid smuggling. So I guess if somebody comes in and buy some carrots from Guatemala, they would probably go out and customs would not stop them. But for example, if somebody wants to come out with a television of 60 inches, we would have stopped them. We would actually not allow an electronic shops that price lower than the rest of Honduras to set up shop there. Things about gasoline. In theory, we could import gasoline without paying the excise taxes, which means that gasoline would cost at least 50% less than in the rest of Honduras. In that case, we already decided to keep a monopoly on that. So if some gasoline dispenser wants to set up a shop there, we would have sold the gasoline at the same price that they could have bought outside to avoid any incentive of smuggling.
Which
we have to be very careful because it's. We have to be fair. We cannot compete with people. Compete with the state for people that lives outside.
Yeah, I remember I visited Venezuela 10 years ago, and people were driving over the border to fill up.
Even pipes in Venezuela. They buy huge trucks and they bring it to Colombia. It's a huge amount of corruption.
Yeah, you can't. I suppose in a small city like Morazán, you can deal with that a little bit better than when it's someone leaving the country to stock up.
Yeah, the point is there are some questions. Like when we have, 100,000 people coming in and out every day, how will manage the entrance and the exit? Well, this is a bridge we'll decide when we get there. we don't have to solve every future problem.
Well, yeah, I know. It's a process, isn't it? As it expands, almost certainly, all cities go through this, I would expect. Maybe not in this sense, because it's not common to found a city en masse in one go and then create it. But you would argue, it's easy to argue that all those problems will get sorted out. I mean, do you have have you got a vision of the finished product with 15,000 people? Like, is it something that you can really imagine?
Well, we have the urban plan, but you can find it in the site. But in terms of positioning, the good thing of cities is that they can expand. They can buy land contiguous or not contiguous, and they can grow. So the idea was to become the central business district of the Valle de Sula. Valle de Sula it's a valley, 80 kilometers long and maybe 40 kilometers wide, where most of the industrial activity of Honduras happen, probably includes 2.5 million people. And there is not only Choloma, there is a bigger city called San Pedro Sula, but there is not a central business district now. I think maybe in 10 years, Morazán would have a pretty good opportunity to become the central business district of the valley.
And would it be something you would franchise beyond that part? Not literally. I mean, using the word franchise meaning take the model, implement it somewhere else? Or is this your, what's the word? Is this your baby? You just want to see it through to the end and then...
Well, I don't have money to do more than one of these. These are, I mean, especially with the model of Entrecom in which you don't sell, it's a lot of money. So the opening other, I prefer to spend the money on one and to make it good. I would love other people. I mean, yes, in theory I can franchise, but there is no reason to franchise if until the new government, literally anybody that asks for a charter to become a ZEDE receive it. The previous government was desperate to find investor to open ZEDEs. So I would love to see other 30 ZEDE in Honduras competing with me, and let's see who provides the best service at a lower cost. But I don't see a reason to have a franchise. I mean, let's everybody compete. If somebody asks me to franchise, I might think about it, but I don't think anybody will ask me.
No, I didn't mean. I meant just implement the same, or the lessons you've learned from setting up Morazán, or by the time it's complete. Is that going to be enough, or would you want to see it? I mean, if it's ideologically driven, of course, which I think in your case it is. You would want, presumably, to see it elsewhere. But you're right, it's expensive. It's not like Prospera. Prospera's more decentralized in a way. It's like more, it's relying on other people to come in and boost and build it. Whereas with you, it's you.
And they sell the land.
Yes.
But this is where we mentioned the Etienne approach of Entrecom comes in. I mean, the Entrecom model gives you a lot of advantages. The first is the resolution of conflicts. If you have a person that doesn't do anything against the HOA, which is basically how Prospera works, it's a condominium. It has a set of rules that it's like an HOA. Let's imagine that a few guys of university comes and have a party every night, and they close at 11, but they do it every night. I mean, if it's a subdivision, there is no way you get rid of them. In our case, we can go, amen. Let's be reasonable. Do it once a week. And if they say, no, look, I can. It's written that I can do whatever I want. Fine. Next lease, we will not renew. So you will be kicked out of the place. And there are 1 million of examples like this. Let's imagine a kid that come back, 12 years old gang of kids that, for example, start to vandalize lightning or things like this. Maybe I know who they are. I will definitely know who they are. But these guys are less than 14 years old and So what do you do in Prospera or even in a nation state? I mean, there is not much you can do. We can go to the father and to say, look, we know they're there. So we don't want to criminally charge them. Fix the problem. If not, in 3 months, you're out. You're a great client, but you have to take care of your kid. So this is the reason why, at least in the residential side, we do lease only of 3 months, renewable. So, and we have, in one case, we kick one guy that was a drunkard and really it was heavy with a lot of other residents. But a second big advantage, for example, is the flexibility in the use of real estate. Where we have houses now, it's at the entrance. Very likely in the future that will be the most valuable land of the community. And if we sell the house and we don't want to use eminent domain, there is no way. I mean, it's very difficult to redeploy the land. In my case, I can just wait for the lease to expire, build the same houses that they have 1 kilometer away, and tell the client, look, you're great clients, but I need to build a 40-story tower for McKinsey and PVC now. But the rent is the same, and I kick in 1 month's free rent if you accept to move there.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I've not thought of that model myself. It's the first time I've been thinking about it, and you can see that. And like you said, you currently, all right, you haven't got 15,000 people there, but
150 now.
Right. Okay. But what I was interested, you mentioned that there's, it's clean. People pick up their litter.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And that's obviously partly because there's security. There's a reason to pick up your litter, but also because there's an incentive to do good because there's the option for you to not be part of the community.
Well, yes. Well, the main reason is cultural. When you see that everybody put the litter in the garbage can, you don't feel well to throw. But it's true that in many cases, a guards when they see a lady letting her toddler to throw paper in the floor, the guards goes there and say, look, lady, you don't have to do that. And you can't do that. Very, very courteously. The second time, less courteously. The third time, the head of police goes there and says, lady, you're a great client, but you cannot do that. So if you do that, we will not renew the lease.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Really interesting. It's like I say, as I've not had much connection with Morazán. We went to Honduras and we had a good look around Prospera, and that model was the one that stuck with me. But yours is more interesting in a way because obviously one of the main, let's say from the outside world, one of the main things levied at somewhere like Prospera is it's a neo-colonialist exercise. It's a very easy thing to say when you look at it, even though I know it's not true. And
it's just a semantic problem. You cannot talk about colonialism when there is, first of all, not use of violence. I mean, colonialism, the basic of colonialism was gunboats. That land was bought and people went voluntarily to Prospera. So to use the terms colonialist doesn't make any sense. Like feudalism, that doesn't make any sense. It's all voluntary. People go there voluntary.
I think I'm making the devil's advocate argument here because I know that's
pretty stupid devil when they use this.
I know, but it is made. I mean, the Guardian write articles saying it.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But in your case, it's very hard to argue that. Because I know even in Prospera is mostly Hondurans, and I think it's written into the ZEDE law that if people working have to be at least 90-something% local.
The workers must be 90% from Honduras.
So even in Prospera, it's something that's a long.
It's true.
But in Morazán, it's very easy to say, well, look, come on, show me where this is true, where this is no longer sort of I don't know, Honduran sovereign land or whatever, you know.
No, I mean, nobody knows much about us. First of all, because I don't need investor, I don't need to do all the advertising that Prospera does. Secondly, it's because our clients are local. I don't have to. I have a couple of digital nomads. One is Alex, Joyce. That they are great people, and I love them. But the main business case is for local people, low class, local people. So I'm much less known than Prospera. Said that, in a sense, we are pretty sexy lady in the market because we are catering to these relatively poor people. So, for example, 3 or 4 years ago, I was in Silicon Valley talking with some very big fund, blue-blooded funds in Silicon Valley, and they were very interested because people in Silicon Valley are strange animals. From one side, they are woke, but on the other, they understand that the market's much more efficient than the state in providing services. So the idea to help the poor, making money and avoiding all the pitfalls of public choice, corruption and waste, because it's a private provider, was very, very exciting for them. And with one of them, I was talking about raising $500 million for a future expansion, and then the election happened. But yes, I can stand the ESG bullshit, but actually we are pretty good perceived in theory from these people.
But nothing is actually currently happening until you have a result with the legal battles.
Well, I'm not continuing with the 150 million in 3 years, that was the plan, because I'm not suicidal. I'm not going to put $150 million there in this situation. But as I told you, I'm putting a few $1 million from now to June next year to keep the ball rolling and to let the enthusiasm to keep being there.
Well, look, I mean, like I say, thanks for talking. It's a bit of a fact-finding mission for me because it's not something. Whilst in the Free Cities movement, we know about Morazán, but like you say, it's not as outwardly self-promoting as Prospera for obvious reasons. But it is the one that makes. It's the. How can I put it? I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just it's the one, I think it's probably the one that would appeal to the most number of people, whatever on side of the political spectrum they fall. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's still a capitalist endeavor and it's still a free market, but it's kind of catering to people who need
but you
it.
Can make money with poor people. I mean, there's plenty of company that makes money with poor people and provide a service.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go ahead and assume that wasn't your intention when you started it. Obviously, it's part of it, but you don't strike me as the kind of gentleman that would sit there and go, right, let's make some money out of poor people.
No, but I say that in. First of all, it's true. I mean, I have other way of deploying my capital that possibly, surely, are more profitable than in the ZEDE. But when I say that, it's because I am a proud capitalist. I know that when you make money, it's not the good things. The things you must be proud. It's not only the money you bring to the family, but it's the good you do in the society. In average, I mean, it's very difficult to know. When there is a transaction, of course, the two parts, being voluntary, the two parts are better off. It's very difficult to find out how much better off is the entrepreneur and how much better off is the client. But the few studies that have been done with that is that for any unit of value of the entrepreneur, it creates 19 units of value in the market. So when you make money, it means you're making, on average, good to society 20 times more than the money you make. So when I say I'm going there and I want to make money, you can take it because I want to make money to go to ski or to give bread to my family, but also to make better the society. It's the same things. I mean, it's a byproduct. You cannot have one without the other.
Well, thank you. I'm I'm a convert now. Well, I wasn't a convert before. I just didn't really know a lot.
Calm down. We have Airbnb that is not a $120 because it has the furniture and air conditioning and everything, but it's $30 per day. And if you come, I will waive the fee.
Let me off the $30. No, I'll pay. Don't worry.
You're rich enough.
Well, no, I'm not that rich, but yeah, well, I'm not sure how comfortable I'd feel.
And I will invite all the libertarian out there that listen to this podcast. I mean, fly to Honduras, not too expensive. You're probably in the US. Come down a couple of weeks and take a different vacation.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? It's so disappointing that it's on hold. I'm really disappointed to hear that because it's on hold for just, I think, obviously the wrong reasons. It's
political reasons.
Yeah, I know, but what is it about people that always fuck it up, like in that sense? Because, like, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that annoys me so much is left-wing governments care about the people. Apparently, they literally. I mean, but it's. I know what you're going to say, but the whole speech is that, and what you're doing is that. You're actually doing it, but because it's kind of like, well, I don't know. It could, like you said, it comes from
the left wing are progressive. Progressive comes basically for the Puritan side of the UK and the US. And these are people from the social gospel. And these are people that have a mission in life. They think what is better for the other better than the other. They know what is good for you better than you. So after 20 years in politics, that started like that and then became corrupted from the politics. And then a guy says, no, I mean, I just want people to decide what's good for them. It's very contrary to their soul. So they said, the free market that fix problems without me saying how this guy must be served.
But like, for example, take the way that the government have bad-mouthed ZEDEs. Like in the beginning, like during after the election, what was the main issue other than that it was the former government that passed the law? Did they say, oh, they're doing this, you know?
Well, actually, the guys that brought the ZEDE in the electoral discussion was the old party, because frankly the old party were pretty corrupted and they didn't have many things to campaign on. The ZEDE was one of the very few, and that was completely clean also, not corrupted. So they started to make advertising about how good are the ZEDE, and the other guys bought it and completely, but of course they went against it, and so they started to say that we were expropriating, which was absolutely not.
Right.
That we had our own judges, which is true for the civil case. I mean, we can choose, in our case, we choose just the Civil Code of Honduras. But also the judges, in our case, our judges are arbitrators. But this is already possible in Honduras because there is the law of arbitration. And for example, if you rent a house from me, we can decide that the law is the Pakistani law and the arbitrator is somebody from Iceland. So I don't need the ZEDE to have... I can make a rental agreement that it's ruled by whatever law I want. It's voluntary with whatever arbitrator I want. But by the way, I didn't do that. I used the Civil Code of Honduras. And they said that this is an important technical point. The police cannot enter in the ZEDE. In my interpretation, the police can enter in the ZEDE. I mean, we have our municipal police, like Choloma has the municipal police, but this doesn't mean that the national police cannot enter Choloma or the ZEDE. If the police show up and wants to come in, I'm not only fine, but I think they have the right to enter. Now, given that the police in Honduras can be dangerous because they in many cases they extortionate a small business. I will not give them a place to put a police place. They have to come from outside. And when they come, I put a patrol of my police behind them so they cannot do anything bad. But I am fine with so this is a thing that Prospera says that the Honduran police cannot enter. As I see, as I read the law, it's not the case. But of course, they made a lot of insults out of there. Because if you are afraid of the police, what you have to hide, right? It's a typical question. Yeah, these were and so they said because you deal in drugs, because you are a pedophile. That was pretty outlandish.
I don't know. It's just a bit sad, isn't it? Because
it is very sad. It's very sad. You have to understand that I am 58 years old. So I said this at the conference. I have probably 20 years to live, and I'm wasting 4 years for these stupid things. It's 20% of the time I have. And this is the project of my life. I want to live and I want to die in that place, in a free place. Because as libertarian, we need our physical place to live. I mean, these things of network stake, everything is fine. But at the end, we are people living in a three-dimensional world. We need to have the feet on some soil. And I want to find a place that is free, be the Free Staters in New Hampshire, the seasteading, the ZEDE, or something else. I want to die in a free place.
Hallelujah, Massimo. Thanks for coming. I've got tingles down my spine.
Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you very much.
I
very much enjoyed this. Thanks.